Shalom. So I'm out here. It's just a little past midday. It's Sabbath. Today is the Sabbath, the 14th Sabbath of the year. And it is June 22nd on the Gregorian calendar. Or on the priestly calendar, it is the 4th month and the 4th day. But it is Sabbath, and we've been tracking the sun for the summer solstice, and the sun has been tracking on this plane for several days. We've not seen any part where it's starting to head back towards the equinox yet. And we did see this little blurb down on the 17th. I had marked on the 15th and it was still up. It hadn't reached its maximum, and then it came down here, and then it just kind of settled on this plane. It had this little down bump and then this plane that it settled on, and it hasn't left that plane since then. So I started doing some research. So I just wanted to go over what Enoch says about this time of the year, and around the solstice time. So this is when we are leaving the 3rd month and entering into the 4th month. And in chapter 72 of Enoch, the book of Enoch, it reads, and he's talking about the 3rd month. And it returns to the east and enters into the 6th gate. And it rises and sets in the 6th gate 1:30 mornings, on account of its sign. On that day, he's talking about the 31st day, the day becomes longer than the night, and the day becomes double the night, and the day becomes 12 parts, and the night is shortened and becomes 6 parts. And then into the 4th month, and it continues and says, and the sun mounts up to make the day shorter and the night longer, and the sun returns to the east and enters into the 6th gate, and rises from it and sets 30 mornings. And when 30 mornings are accomplished, so on the last day of the 4th month, the day decreases by exactly 1 part and becomes 11 parts, and the night 7. So what Enoch is describing here is the sun's declination angle, and the shadows the sun casts across the planet because of its angles. And that's what we're measuring here on the table. This is just measuring the sun's angle, how high it goes up and how low it goes down from our equator. As our Earth tilts back and forth for the seasons, there is this angle that happens between us and the sun, and this is what this shadow measures. Okay? And so that's what Enoch is talking about this time of year as we're leaving the 3rd month and going into the 4th month, and what the sun is doing. So it's 12 parts light and 6 parts dark. So it is as far to that point in the heaven as it's going to go. That's what that's telling us. So the declination angle varies seasonally due to the tilt of the Earth on its axis of rotation and the rotation of the Earth around the sun. If the Earth were not tilted on its axis of rotation, the declination would always be 0 degrees, and we would not have seasons. The sun would also be at 0 degrees if the Earth was flat. So this shows us that the Earth is moving, it's spherical. We have this movement. If the Earth was flat, we'd just be going around in a circle. The sun would just be going around. There would be no angles. There would be no declination angle there. And so then we wouldn't have seasons. That's what creates the seasons, is how we're tilted towards or away depending on your hemisphere, right? So the sun on the flat Earth would always be at 0 degrees. However, the Earth is tilted by 23.45 degrees, and the declination angle varies plus or minus this amount depending on the seasons and the hemisphere you live in. And we see it in the way that the sun shadows play on the earth. Only at the spring and fall equinoxes is this declination angle equal to 0. And that's what gives us our straight line on the equinoxes, because the declination is 0. We don't have this arch. See, the farther we are, or the more we're tilted, the deeper the arch. The straighter it gets as we get to the equinox, the more upright our tilt gets towards the sun, as the sun aligns itself back and forth with our equator. It moves back and forth. This is the sun's movement, or our movement around the sun. From our perspective, the sun is moving, but in actuality, we are moving, and we're tilting back and forth. That's how we have, like I said, the seasons. That doesn't happen on a flat earth. So from weather.gov, we get the following information under the heading of solstices. The summer solstice occurs at the moment the Earth's tilt towards the sun is at a maximum. Therefore, on the day of the summer solstice, the sun appears at its highest elevation with a midday position that changes very little for several days before and after the summer solstice. The summer solstice occurs when the sun is directly over the Tropic of Cancer, which is located at 23.5 degrees latitude north and runs through Mexico, the Bahamas, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, India, and southern China. For every place north of the Tropic of Cancer, the sun is at its highest point in the sky, and this is the longest day of the year. So it may not reach quite to that 23.5, depending on where you are living. But it is the day that the sun will reach its highest point at midday. But as we can see what it says here, that changes very little for several days before and after the summer solstice. So now we can understand what we're seeing here on our shadow watch. This is normal sun activity. And according to the Lunar Solar Calculator app that I have on my phone, because I'm not in the zone mentioned, I am at a different latitude, the sun reaches its highest elevation from my location at 23.4 degrees on June 16th and stays there until June 25th, where on the 26th it drops to 23.3. So that is 10 days where the sun appears to linger in the sky before making its trek back again, with June 20th, the solstice this year, being in the middle of those 10 days. So, are these 10 days, is there something significant about those 10 days of the sun lingering? So, you can see here that we're still trekking along the same plane today. Like I said, it's June 22nd, the 16th. I unfortunately wasn't here to mark. I marked it on the 15th and the 17th, and the 17th is when we had this little drop down. So unfortunately I wish I would have been here on the 16th to see if that was actually the day it dropped down from this upper, it was up here and then it dropped down and then it came, just kind of rested right along here. Also looking in Stellarium, we kind of watch how the sun moves, and even though it's a figure 8, it's not just this perfect figure 8. It's has some little bumps along the way. So just learning about what's happening here and being able to overlay it with the scriptures and what the prophets tell us and what Enoch tells us just brings us that much closer to understanding the appointed times of our Creator. And what a wonderful thing that He has given us here, this great sign in the sky, that we know when to meet with Him. And I can see now why we don't use the solstice for any kind of counting, because it's not a one-day event of a straight line. I mean, here we have 10 days of this same curve. So even though the sun is transversing in its travels, it's not a time period in which we can use accurately to count from. And so Enoch gives us the instructions to balance our years at the equinoxes to make sure that we're on track and meeting with our Creator at the appropriate times. So I'm not going to continue to mark this table. We'll just watch it through the day, take some pictures to see if it's still tracking. Then we'll just watch it now through to the 25th, which is my wedding anniversary, so that's kind of cool. That will be the last day that it's supposed to be tracking along this line. And then after that, we'll be out here and looking to see if it jumps up. So we'll just keep an eye on it, take some pictures, keep you updated. Okay, here I am. It's just a little after 5. And we can see here it's on the 22nd. And we're still tracking this line through the evening. I just went ahead and made a mark. We don't have as many colors at this end because the last few days as it started getting towards the evening, we had a lot of haze and clouds, so we weren't able to get good readings. But this actually was the reading my husband did on the Rosh Chodesh, all this green. So this was the Rosh Chodesh line. There's a few blues in there, but not as good as he did on the Rosh. But so it's still tracking that line into the evening hour. If all the data is true and what we're reading, we probably shouldn't see it come off of this plane until after June 25th. So that's our report for June 22nd. So until we see you again, I'm going to wish you Shalom Shalom and Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom Shalom.